This week on the show.
Starting from scratch after a nightmare at the museum.
Walking around, you just feel hollow.
How signs of celebration are slowly returning to the Champagne region in France. When your Round the World challenge hits the skids.
We could see borders were starting to close, and we were like, what is going on?
And the pygmy goats who got a little too used to lockdown. Hello and welcome to the show. So this is the Giraffe House at London Zoo, newly reopened after months of lockdown, something which these guys are clearly ridiculously excited about. So I've come here to find out how this place has been looking to volunteers from London's furloughed workforce to get itself up and running once again. But first, an anniversary to remember, and not an especially happy one. 2 years ago this month, fire completely gutted Brazil's National Museum in Rio, destroying literally millions of priceless artifacts. Ever since, teams of restorers have been searching through the ashes to piece together what's left. Before lockdown, we sent Mike Corey to join them.
Around 200,000 people a year visited Brazil's National Museum. It housed some of the country's most invaluable historical treasures, 20 million items in all, their origins spanning thousands of years. A former imperial palace, it was built for the Portuguese royal family in the early 19th century. But 2 years ago, in September 2018, disaster struck. A fire, blamed on a faulty air conditioning unit, spread out of control, destroying the building and half its collection.
The museum is still closed for tourists as it's a burnt-out husk of what it used to be. And much of the devastation is still being cleared away. Walking around, you just feel hollow, like the remains of the museum. And this room right here is where the fire first started.
O incêndio do Museu Nacional ocorreu no dia 2 de setembro de 2018, né, em um momento que não tinha ninguém dentro do palácio, dentro do prédio. Os seguranças já tinham saído, já tinha acabado a visitação. E quando os bombeiros chegaram, esse incêndio já tinha avançado, já tinha chegado num ponto que eles tiveram que rapidamente tentar debelar.
When the scale of the devastation became clear, Luciana and some of her colleagues entered the burning building to try and save some of the artifacts.
Né, no momento que o fogo já estava nessa área aqui de trás. E nesse momento a gente já estava aqui dentro, quase nessa área aqui, já estava tentando entrar ali pela porta e o teto começou a cair sobre o terceiro andar e o terceiro andar sobre o segundo andar. Então os bombeiros pediram para a gente sair, porque a gente estava correndo já risco de vida. A gente não conseguia acreditar o tamanho, né, a dimensão de toda essa destruição que aconteceu aqui no palácio. Muita gente está começando a perceber o que aconteceu agora, né? Às vezes acontece, eu estar no final do dia aqui e aí bate a tristeza, bate a vontade de chorar.
The public grief was overwhelming. The museum wasn't some dusty old relic, but one of the country's top higher education centers, a hub of activity.
The National Museum is located in the São Cristóvão district of Rio de Janeiro. It's a little chaotic, and it's not the wealthiest part of the city. There's many poor areas nearby, some just a few stops away on the train. And in a city as divided as Rio, which is as famous for its favelas as it is its golden beaches, that's quite significant. The museum will forever be remembered as a place where people from all different backgrounds could come together.
For former staff members and students, it continues to leave a mark.
I know that pain. Luis here is tattooing the image of the National Museum on Marina. And he's doing it for free.
Marina studied archaeology at the museum. More than 100 people have got one of Luis's commemorative tattoos.
Estou registrando na pele a memória, o trabalho deles, tudo que eles perderam, como eles estão sobrevivendo pós o incêndio.
I did my tattoo because the museum is so important to me. I work in the museum. My best friends are from there. My professors. So we love there. It's like our home.
And we'll see the final piece of art. And beautiful.
Yes, it's finished.
Yeah, look at that. Such fine lines too, right?
Yeah, just lines.
Uh-huh. Marina, you made it.
Yeah.
You survived.
Back at the site, a team of researchers comb through the debris for surviving artifacts. Despite all the destruction, there are still some exciting discoveries.
It looks like there's something important in here,
Yes,
or what's left of something important.
yes. These are some of Lucia remains. It's one of the oldest skeleton find in America. It's one of the oldest.
It's estimated the Lucia remains date back 11,500 years.
Was an iconic item for the collections. We could rescue about 9% of the skeleton. So we hope that in the future we'll be able to make a proper reconstruction or maybe a restoration of the material. I have a really great team, very dedicated, and they are giving their souls to rescue what is possible to be rescued.
Since we visited the museum back in January, the outlook has grown more uncertain. Restoration work is on hold because of coronavirus, and the team has only managed to fundraise half of its $70 million target. It's meant plans to partially reopen for Brazil's bicentennial in 2022 are unlikely to go ahead.
The future of the museum, it's keep on. We have to go on. We continue to work, we continue to discover, we continue to interact with the public. That is our main goal as an institution.
Well, from Brazil, time now to head to France, where with fewer big celebrations and weddings going ahead this year, it hasn't been a great one for the makers of champagne. Sales have tumbled, and it's reckoned that tens of millions of bottles could be left unsold. The Champagne region has seen particularly hot and sunny weather, and that led to a bumper harvest. But with the collapse in demand, 2020 definitely won't go down as a vintage year.
On s'est demandé si le monde n'allait pas s'arrêter d'un coup, sachant que le champagne c'est quelque chose qui est synonyme de fête, qui est synonyme d'amitié, de rencontres. Voilà.
The crisis hit Champagne very hard because the drop of 1/3 of the shipments is even worse than what we have expected during the Great Depression or in '74 after the oil crisis.
J'ai vendu 69 bouteilles cette année. Donc c'est même pas une baisse de 30%, c'est quasiment à l'arrêt. C'est le stock pour les bouteilles de fin d'année. Ah ouais, ça a été impressionnant de ne plus avoir un coup de téléphone, ou le seul coup de téléphone c'était des mariages qui étaient reportés, annulés. Les stocks se rediminuent un petit peu, donc là on sort de vendange, donc on va réhabiller quand même puisque ça fait un petit mois qu'on était un peu à l'arrêt là-dessus. Ça reprend son cours, on va dire, petit à petit. Faut pas trop pleurer non plus. Je pense que voilà, on va s'en sortir. Moi, j'en suis persuadé.
The region has a tradition of resilience because it has experienced all the big crises, especially of the first half of the century. And First World War really took place here. And then Second World War also impacted the region. So there is this history of getting back on our feet after the worst crisis you can imagine.
Ouais, parce que vous venez de Paris, c'est ça?
Paris, tout à fait. On a un mariage sur Reims et en fait, ce sont des amis qui nous ont donné vos coordonnées.
D'accord.
Donc on a dit, c'est l'occasion.
Bah, ils ont bien fait. Donc voilà, aujourd'hui, on a quand même de la chance d'avoir des clients qui sont de passage, des clients parisiens. Donc ça, c'est un assemblage des 3 cépages. 40% Pinot Noir, 40% Pinot Meunier, 20% Chardonnay. Au milieu, nulle part, et des touristes passent. Donc voilà, c'est qu'encore une fois le côté positif, c'est la coupe à moitié pleine, le verre à moitié plein.
Nature gave us a beautiful harvest this year, thanks to drought, thanks to a very present sun. We had beautiful, very ripe, mature grapes, again with concentrated aromas and a wide flavor palette.
Donc voilà, là on est sur une parcelle qui a été vendangée partiellement à cause du Covid, puisque voilà, on avait un petit peu de raisin en trop parfois aussi, donc c'est des parcelles que on les a commencées, l'heure était finie. On va garder espoir, on va garder le sourire, on sort d'une belle vendange où tout était presque parfait, le temps, la météo, le raisin, tout était vraiment assez exceptionnel cette année, malgré la crise sanitaire.
We know the situation is bad from an economical and health standpoint, but at least in a few years when those wines are ready to be released, we'll have beautiful champagne wines to offer.
Still to come.
Stuck on your greatest adventure, the round-the-world challenges that lockdown stopped in their tracks. And the furloughed workers that helped get London Zoo back on its paws.
So one of the things the zookeepers here were able to do during lockdown is give some of the animals extra special attention. The goats here, for example, love a good rub down. So Chelsea, how did the goats react to the lack of visitors? It must have been quite lonely for them.
I think they definitely missed the interaction. As you can see, they do like a good scratch. And especially when we first shot, obviously they didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah.
So for the first few days, they were all kind of over there by the gates where the visitors would normally come in, waiting for somebody to come in and give them a bit of a fuss, which obviously there weren't any visitors coming in. So as keepers, we made an extra special effort to come and spend some time with them.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Can't say I've ever massaged a goat before, but I think it's equally relaxing for them and for me.
Now, more people have been to space than have managed to visit every country in the world. The UN recognises 193 countries, and it's estimated that less than 250 people have ever stepped foot in each and every one. We spoke to some intrepid adventurers who are attempting this and to a woman who's completed this monumental challenge.
Hi, I'm Yui. I've been to every country in the world. It took me 17 years and 5 passports to do so. It was a huge personal challenge and a very long process, lots of focus and time and effort, but it makes me really happy and proud every single day. Of the people that have done it, women only make up about 10 to 15%, so we are quite the minority. I don't think having this goal is completely impossible post-coronavirus, just that you have to understand that it may take a little bit more time and effort and patience.
I'm Julia. I'm Chantal. I'm Chloe. And I'm Angelique. We did a mad dash to get here. We were in Cambodia and we could see borders were starting to close and things were getting really uneasy and there was no more tourists except for us. And we were like, what is going on? So we did the mad dash to New Zealand and we got here literally right before they went into their lockdown. We wanted to somewhat achieve our goal within the next 2 years of visiting every country. So we were moving pretty fast this year until COVID hit. The big question is like, if it lasts for another year, what are we gonna do? You know, where are we gonna go? But I'm sure things are gonna start to progress. Eventually the world has to open back up again.
I'm Sam. I've been to 183 countries. COVID was starting to be talked about more and more. and people kind of got worried, and I was seeing people on planes wearing more masks, and I kind of figured, well, I've only got 20 countries left. I was meant to finish in April. I flew from Fiji to Tonga, and then once I got to Tonga, about 2 days later, they closed all the borders and said, no, no one can leave. You're all stuck here. And then I waited there for 5 months, and then I was hearing from government officials from other Pacific islands. I wouldn't be able to visit any of the countries for 18 months, 2 years, that type of thing. So I kind of decided after that that I would just leave.
Because a lot of people say, can I do it? You know, just do it and make it work. So we always reverse engineer what we want to do. We say, this is our goal, this is what we want to do, and then how can I make it happen?
I did it because it was my dream since I was really young, and my dream was to see as much of the world as possible. It was to travel, see loads of different countries, and I did a pretty good job of that, so I'm definitely not disappointed.
You have to understand your reasons for doing this. For some people, it's escapism. You know, they want to get out of a rut, and they think, you know, travel, it's like a holiday, it's an escape. But your why will really color the kind of experience you do have.
So I am up in the mountains of Afghanistan. You can see the mountain ranges and stuff behind me here. Super beautiful, so nice. One of my favorite countries in the world is actually Afghanistan. It's a country that everyone's scared of. I was scared of it before I went, and then I went there and I realized I actually loved it. I love that it's super traditional. It feels like you're going back in time. Everyone wears traditional clothes. All of the buildings are old. You know, the only real signs of like modernness is people have cell phones and cars.
It's not easy. I won't lie. It's not easy when you're always together. You have to still keep a structure, and you still have to have your own mental space to get away. You know, there's times where when we're traveling, I've said to the whole family, you guys are on that side of the street and do not come to my side of the street. And I'll just walk by myself, and within 2 minutes, they're all over here again. I'm like, what are you guys doing? This is my own like mental space.
Everything makes a lot more sense now to me, and I find that I understand people's behavior, especially if they come from different cultures, a lot more.
London Zoo has a prime spot in the heart of one of the city's largest parks. Since it opened its gates to visitors in 1847, the stream of income has been steady.
I think the penguins are my favourite.
The charity usually welcomes over 1 million visitors a year through its gates, raising vital funds towards the care of almost 20,000 animals.
After its historic closure in March, this iconic London attraction recently reopened. But months of lost income have left the oldest scientific zoo in the world struggling to survive.
It's been really, really hard for us. So the moment our gates closed, our income dried up. It was an incredible weight of responsibility for me and for the staff. It was a really momentous occasion. This was the first time we've closed since being back in the Blitz. We had staff living on site here because they wanted to ensure that they could remain coming in to continue feeding our animals.
Take a metre step back, please.
Our animals cost us over £600,000 a month to feed. So the more that goes on, the scarier it gets. So we were depleting our reserves, our savings, which meant that, yeah, you know, actually what we could do and how long we could keep going was getting really quite scary. We had a fight on our hands to make sure that these guys, all the animals and all of the staff looking after them that are so dedicated, were going to come out of the other side and come out the other side shining.
London Zoo isn't alone in its struggle. Zoos all over the world are taking drastic measures to keep afloat. The Calgary Zoo is in the process of sending its pandas back to China because they can't source enough bamboo to feed them. The staff at Vietnam's oldest zoo have taken a 30% pay cut and are relying on food donations from the public. And San Antonio Zoo in Texas has transformed into a drive-through experience in a desperate bid to attract more visitors.
We've had to change a lot in order to be COVID secure, to make sure that people are safe and happy and enjoying things. So we've created one-way routes. There's hand sanitizer everywhere you go. There are reminders about social distancing everywhere, and we've just had to adapt ourselves.
Visitor numbers are on the rise, but enforcing these special measures requires more staff, something that the zoo just isn't in a position to currently afford. Luckily, Londoners have stepped in. Thousands of them responded to a call out asking people on furlough to come and volunteer and help the zoo get back on its feet.
Excuse me, would you mind just try social distance a tiny bit? Thank you so much.
This is Sophia. She's volunteering to help fill her time since lockdown put her studies on hold.
I've been volunteering here for about a week. This is my third shift, so I'm really new at this. But I've been finding it really exciting. I'm looking forward to coming here every time I've got a shift. You go all the way out of the tigers and you got to find the outback. The world is a bit all over the place, and it's nice to see people have some time off and not think about everything else that is going on. You see people just being kind of carefree and walking around and enjoying their time here. I'm studying biology and I want to work in conservation, so having the time to go around and look at the animals, it really makes it worth it.
Another unexpected positive to come out of lockdown was that the keepers had a little more time to get on with some jobs without people like me getting in the way.
Right, so we'll be going in and I'll give a whistle, and that's the signal to the penguins that they can come in. Charlie, come on. Charlie!
Every year, the zoo has to check the weight of all their animals.
So before lockdown, we didn't have these bridges in place. So if we wanted to weigh a penguin, we would just put them on the scales if we needed to. But with the time that we had during lockdown, my colleague got to make these amazing weigh bridges. Come on, baby. Yeah, you're a good boy.
Now, I think I speak for a lot of people when I say we've all piled on the lockdown pounds. Susie, how about the penguins?
Right, so Charlie was 4230.
4230.
The penguins have been superb over lockdown and have maintained their weights.
Lucky them.
Unlike the rest of us.
Well, that's all from us this week, but do join us next time when we'll be bringing you a selection of our favourite wildlife adventures from over the years.
From the dog who's exploring every national park in the US on the back of a motorbike to the world's first open water sanctuary for beluga whales, we've met some amazing creatures on the show.
And don't forget to follow us in all the usual places. We're at BBC Travel. So from me, Lucy Hedges, and the rest of the Travel Show team here in London, it's goodbye.